This video is a very quick overview of the interface for filters. No matter which filter you're applying to your video, the general interface looks the same. The thing that's different is typically what's on the bottom. So basically you will be applying changes to your video over time, and you do that through keyframes along the timeline. So the little diamond shapes are the keyframes, and you can see I've got a scrubber here. Typically the interfaces will set the first keyframe to be a little bit different than the end frame so you can see what happens. So as I move this scrubber along, on the right hand side we see the preview pane is showing me what happens to the video over time. So the interesting things to know is that I move my scrubber and then I will create a keyframe at an appropriate point just by clicking on the plus. I can delete the keyframe by clicking on the minus. Underneath the preview pane there are buttons that help you quickly move to the next frame or to the last frame. So if I click one, the scrubber just moves one frame at a time. If I click on the end, it goes to the end of the frame or the beginning of the frame, or beginning frame of the video. Now, a lot of the most important operations for keyframes, if I right click on a keyframe, I can copy, paste, delete, and specifically some interesting ones are copy and delete intermediate, paste to all, paste all right, so you can play around with those. But let's take a look at the most basic operations. So as I'm moving this scrubber over, notice that it starts immediately from this keyframe, it starts expanding out. But let's assume that we wanted to keep it just at that size for a number of frames. So I just move my scrubber over for however long I want to keep it at that size. And I can right click on the original keyframe. Let's select it first. Right click it and copy. Make sure go to wherever I'm interested in pasting the keyframe, and I can just right click and paste. And so now it stays the same, the size stays the same, and then it expands. So for some other filter it would be doing something different, but that's basically you just copy and paste keyframes. And the last thing that I'll show as a basic is there are buttons here that I can go to the next keyframe and go to the previous keyframe. So that's helpful for navigating if you've got a lot of keyframes. Now there are other buttons and you can play around with those, but that's the basics of using the filter interface.